You know, as we went through our coverage over the Onslaught saga, I kind of realized that I love the prologue. I love phase one because phase one for me really was like each chapter, they just got bigger and bigger, crazier and crazier. Now, phase two is somewhat like that as well, but you do have some like random chapters that would have been okay if they weren't really part of this event, like Punisher. It was a cool chapter, but technically, we didn't need that book. The same thing goes for Green Goblin and also for me, Generation X. Now, hear me out real quick. Generation X tie-ins to this event is pretty cool, I guess, because it's the whole idea of Emma Frost, and let me explain. You see, for Emma Frost, she kind of realized that things were popping off back in New York for the X-Men and also for the rest of the heroes as well. And so her main goal was to find a way to protect Generation X, her brand new group of students. And so she flew over to Canada as a way to protect them. Now, here's the thing, because this is a callback to the early days of X-Men and also New Mutant comics. Let me explain. You see, in that storyline, when it came to Emma Frost, she had another group of mutants that she was trying to teach, take care of, to help them grow with their abilities. The problem was they all died. Not all of them. I think like 2 or 3 had survived. Like, for example, Empath and also Warpath. But most of the Hellions were killed off. Now, technically, for Emma Frost, she had no idea at first they all have been killed off because she was in a coma. Once she did come out of that coma and she had discovered what happened to her old group, it broke her. And so when she was given the chance to teach a new group, she said, you know what? It's time for me to protect this group no matter what. And so she flew over to Canada. And really, when it came to Emma Frost, she made sure to use her abilities on them as a way to kind of make them act and think differently than they usually do. And here's the reason why, because if these young mutants were able to think the way they usually do, to act the way they usually do, then most likely they would try to escape. They would try to fight back against her, and she can't have that. She's trying her best to protect them from the possibility of being killed or hurt by this powerful being known as Onslaught back in New York. But here's the thing though, because for Emma Frost, it's her kind of playing house with them as well. Like, she's really trying her best to keep them acting differently than they usually do. And matter of fact, she's in the kitchen right now trying to cook up breakfast for them. Now, apparently, she is a horrible cook. But again, it's her playing house, using her powers to keep them busy long enough until she can figure out what exactly is happening back in New York, but to also protect them. The problem is that when it came to Emma Frost, when she came back to her house with these kids, she had no idea or possibly forgotten that Toad was there as well. And so you have Toad hiding right now in a different part of her home, but he's right now using Toads as a way to watch Emma Frost, to watch the kids, to collect information on them. And these Toads or frogs go back over to him to relay what they had saw about Emma and also these students of hers. Now, for Banshee, in the last chapter for this team, he was kind of sent away by Emma Frost. And so this is him trying his best to locate where Emma Frost is. Where is his missing students? Now, when it comes to Banshee, he went over to the old base of Alpha Flight. And here's the reason why I said the old base, because by this point in Marvel Comics, there is no longer an Alpha Flight team in Canada, really at all. And so for him, it's kind of like, great, I'm out of luck. But luckily for him, he does run into Sasquatch. Now, here's the thing. He's down to help out Banshee to find Emma Frost. But it's also Banshee realizing that there's something off about Emma Frost, and most likely it's not her fault. And the reason why, because he got a call from the X-Men about what's happening back in New York. So most likely he's kind of like, there's something off about her, but at the same time, she's probably just okay, but I gotta find her and my missing students. Now, for the missing students, Generation X, when we jump back over to them, they begin to realize there's something wrong with them. Like their minds are screaming out like, hey, you're not acting your normal way. You're being affected. You're being controlled by somebody. You need to come back into your own reality. But at the same time, they also realize they're not really able to feel different types of emotions, just being happy. And that's truly it. Now, when it comes to the students, out of nowhere, a tree does fall into the building. Now, for the kids, they should be scared or at least somewhat freak out. But they're not. They're kind of like, hey, we're still happy, but at the same time, we shouldn't be happy. Like, what in the world is going on with us? But then you also have Toad appear. Now, when Toad appears, it's kind of him saying like, it's now time for me to attack you guys, but also using my army of frogs and toads as a way to attack you guys. And so this kind of leads into the ending of this storyline because we do pick up with, well, Emma Frost right now being confronted by two people who had always been working with her for like many years, right? Like as her drivers or bodyguards, whatever. They came to her and said like, hey boss, you didn't realize a tree fell down into your house? Like that seemed kind of weird to us. And technically they're right because when that tree fell down, she didn't move. She kept going on with her day. But after they left, you then have Monet being able to enter the mind of Emma Frost. Now, when she does that, it's Monet telling Emma like, hey, listen, so I'm right now trying to free our minds because we're being attacked by Toad and all his frogs friends at the moment. And we can't fight back because, well, you are controlling us. You're forcing us to be happy at the moment. But it's also her telling Emma like the only reason why you're doing all of this for is because you're being somewhat influenced by Onslaught, because he is a pure psionic energy being. He has the ability to affect anybody who is a psychic. That means Jean Grey, Charles Xavier, Psylocke, Emma Frost, and also Chamber. And so right now is her saying like subconsciously you wanted to protect us from him. But the problem is you're going at it the wrong way. And matter of fact, you're about to get us killed right now by Toad and all his frogs. And so when we jump back over to the young mutants right now who are about to be attacked by Toad, we do learn how Toad was able to communicate with the frogs, how he was able to control them. He gained this ability by a character known as Surgeon. Now, when it comes to Surgeon, this is his only appearance ever in Marvel Comics, but he does have the ability to add on to mutant powers. So like if you're a mutant that has one power, he can most likely give you another ability on top of that. And so for Toad, he was able to gain the ability to communicate with the frogs and toads in this area. Now, with all that being said, you do have Emma arrive just in time to basically stop Toad. But this is a callback to the very early days of X-Men comics because she said, Toad, let's not forget, you hated the idea of Magneto just lording over you. You hated the idea of the Hellfire Club declining your offer to join the inner circle. You hated the idea of all these people just mistreating you. And here you are right now mistreating my students. Now, once she's able to send Toad away, you have Sasquatch and also Banshee arrive. Now for Banshee, again, he's not really mad at Emma because he realized there's things popping off back in New York at the moment. And so because of that, he goes ahead and gives her a pass when it comes to the way she's been acting this entire time. But after doing that, the book kind of ends on that note right there, getting our kids ready for their next adventure after this storyline right here, but really after the Onslaught crossover. And so now we have to jump over to Amazing Spider-Man issue number 415. Now, when it comes to Spider-Man, he's one of the few characters to actually get 2 books in this crossover, while some of the other characters only got 1 chapter in this event. But here's the thing, because when it came to Peter Parker in the Amazing Spider-Man, he was still in the middle of the Clone Saga, and let me explain. You see, when it came to Marvel Comics, they were trying to make people believe that Peter Parker was not the real Spider-Man, that Ben Reilly was the real Spider-Man, and Peter Parker was the clone. On top of that, when it came to Peter Parker, he was still married to Mary Jane, and she was also pregnant, which is kind of like, okay, cool. That's a great thing. But for Peter around that time, his powers would disappear here and there. And so for Peter Parker, he never knew when his powers may be with him or possibly gone in the middle of the battle. And so when you have Peter and Mary Jane trying to go back home, well, the city is currently being popped off at the moment. You have sentinels just everywhere attacking people left and right. And Peter knows what he has to do. Get Mary Jane the heck out of there. And luckily for him, his powers are back at the moment where he can grab Mary Jane and get her the heck out of there. He also goes out of his way to save a child who had lost their parents. Now, this issue was also taking place around the same time as the Green Goblin issue. So, of course, you had Phil Urich being the Green Goblin and trying to be a hero. Well, not technically just yet. You see, this part of the issue takes place at the beginning part of that issue right there. So, currently, the Daily Bugle is being attacked by a Sentinel at the moment. Now, for a brief moment, we do switch over to, well, Ben Reilly. When it comes to Ben Reilly, around this time in Marvel Comics, he was the Spider-Man, right? Like the main Spider-Man. And he had his own support characters around him. And so with things popping off in the city, you have Ben trying his best to get those people somewhere safe. And while trying to do that, he leaves them behind and changes into his Spider-Man outfit to deal with the Sentinels. And so now we switch over to Peter Parker. Now for Peter, it's him right now trying to get Mary Jane somewhere safe. And the reason why, because they're being chased down once again by another Sentinel. Here is the thing though. You see, for this Sentinel, it does pick up two possible threats. The first is Peter Parker. The second is the baby that Mary Jane is pregnant with. And so it's kind of like, hey, here is a sign the child that she has right now might have powers down the road. As we all know, unfortunately, Mary Jane and Peter will not have a child together. Anyways, though, when it comes to Sentinel, it wants to target Mary Jane. But because Peter is there and you have Peter being able to show off all his abilities, for the Sentinel, it's kind of like, you know what? That person right there is second on my list. My main goal right now is him, Peter Parker. And so you have Peter trying his best to get the robot away from Mary Jane, while you have MJ head over to the Daily Bugle. Now for Peter, he's kind of struggling a tad bit, but while you have him trying to get away, just like that, his powers once again disappear. And so with his powers being gone, for the Sentinel, it no longer looks at Peter Parker as a threat. But on top of that, Mary Jane's gone now. So for Sentinel, it has to find somebody else to go after. And this kind of leads into the ending part of the Green Goblin issue, because as we switch over to JJ, is him trying to inspire all his different employees to stay here with him to make sure they are able to report what is happening across New York. But at the same time, it's him saying, like, if you want to leave, to go see your family, to go protect your family, you can go. And don't worry, I won't dock your pay at all. But if you want to stay, we gotta work. And so this part right here kind of picks up at the very end of the Green Goblin issue, where we see Green Goblin fighting against a Sentinel. But on top of that, it's JJ wondering, like, who the heck is that guy right there? And with the city popping off at the moment, you're going to have a few people out there who are going to try to, you know, steal some things as there's chaos happening across the city. And so we see a few thugs right now trying to rob a store. Now, luckily for the owner, Spider-Man does arrive, Ben Reilly. Now for Ben, he tells the thugs, like, hey, listen, I'm not your main problem. That right there is your main problem. And just like that, another Sentinel appears. Now, before we see Ben Reilly being able to deal with that Sentinel, we jump back over to Peter and Mary Jane as they arrived at the Daily Bugle. Now, for Peter, His main goal is to get back out there to help out. Even though his powers are constantly disappearing, he gotta be a hero. But for Mary Jane, she'll stay behind and actually help JJ report about what's happening across New York. She gets on a typewriter. And for the last few pages of this storyline, it's just Ben Reilly, being Spider-Man. We see him being able to bring down a Sentinel, but he also kind of hates the idea of these robots attacking New York all over the place. So his main goal is to just go out there and be that hero. And that really does wrap up this chapter of the Onslaught saga. Here's the thing, because there is another chapter for Peter Parker and Ben Reilly. The thing is, we gotta jump over to a different book first before we dive into that chapter right there. But with that being said, guys, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.